Okay, so if you're ready, once again, my name is Laritza Flores. I am a part-time librarian at the Bluegrass Community and Technical College, the Newtown campus. Right here below is my email if you want to reach out and have a chat or, uh, you know, I'm around. Right here to your right is an overview of what I'll be talking about. So I'll give just a quick introduction to BCTC, just a little bit of history for the folks that may not be too familiar about it. A brief note on language, the BCTC Prison Education Program and what I know about it and what I've learned. And then I'll share just a little bit about the students and then my role. If time allows, I'll share a few examples of the students' requests that I've received so far, along with my colleague Rhonda. Okay, so if you're ready, you guys, we'll just jump right in. The Bluegrass Community and Technical College was founded in 1939 as the Lexington Technical Institute. In 1984, it was renamed Bluegrass Technical College, and then many years later, it was consolidated to the Lexington Community College and the Central Kentucky Technical College, became known as KCTCS. BCTC is one of 16 two-year college institutions under the KCTCS umbrellas, and we have 7 campuses. We have Cooper, Newtown, Leestown. We have a campus in Danville, in Georgetown, Lawrenceburg, and Winchester. And then we also have a Thoroughbred Training Center. Folks are able to earn or work towards associate's degrees in over 40 areas of study. And then just super quickly, I will be using the terms incarcerated persons, which refers to anyone currently incarcerated without making claims about the guilt or innocence, contrary towards like convict, nor does it attach a permanent identity to an often temporary status like prisoner. I took this term from this language guide right here. And then if you're interested in this, we can also see the Marshall's Project, the language project. I like to use incarcerated persons, and it's probably a term that I will be using during this presentation, or mostly likely just student. I prefer to use this over the dehumanizing language that the state uses, terms like convict or felon or inmate. Okay, so the Bluegrass Community and Technical College Prison Education Program, or just PEP, is actually relatively new. It was just approved in April of 2024, and classes began that fall of 2024. We are working with the North Point Training Center, or NTC, and folks are able to earn an associate in applied science degree in welding, which I'm told is super popular and everyone's trying to get in. Folks can also earn an associate's in arts degree and an associate in science degree. We are also working with a Blackburn Correctional Complex where folks can earn an associate in arts degree and an associate in science. I tried to get some more statistics on students for you all, but folks that I reached out to have not yet responded to me, unfortunately, so I apologize for that. I can tell you that students, their age ranges from 20 to folks in their 70s. The ethnicities within the program are white, African American, Hispanic, and Pacific Islanders. And I know also that their sentences vary. So there are folks that are only serving 1 year and folks that are only serving, or folks that are serving 10 to lifetime. Is there something else that I wanted to say there? Okay. So before I started at Bluegrass Community and Technical College, I was in public libraries. That's what my background is in. And I started with BCTC in December of 2024. In February, I started assisting with the prison education program along with my coworker, Rhonda. And a bulk of what we do is to assist with general reference and research questions. Mm, Before we could have any kind of contact with the students, we had to fill out some forms and we had to have a background check. And the way that we communicate with students is through Canva, and then it is secured through Lantern. And through Canva, we have communication with the professors, the students, and then if the courses are assigned a tutor, we also can have contact with them should we choose. Mhm. The staff is very small. As far as I understand, there's a prison education program coordinator. There are the professors for the semester, and then my colleague Rhonda and I, the part-time librarians that can assist with the with the research questions. So to initiate contact with the students, we send at the beginning of the semester an email just saying hello, that we are excited to work with them. And then we kind of explain a little bit about what we will be assisting with. So we let them know that we'll be here to answer their research questions, or if they need just any kind of general reference assistance, or sometimes we do assist with citations. This semester, students are taking an English 102 course, and their professor, Dr. Doyle, did create a very nice, very thorough syllabus, and they are working this year on learning and conducting academic research and writing a research paper. However, they're not actually conducting the research themselves because their internet access is very limited and highly supervised. So they will send us messages to say, hey, I'm interested in this. Can you please find me some resources? And so we try really hard to return quality research just like we would with any student, and kind of examples of what they would find if they were to conduct research on their own. I know that they have a library in their facilities, but I honestly can't tell you very much about it. But I do imagine that what they do have access to is likely outdated and that they have limited funding, or at least I'm assuming so. I know that they have a librarian at their facilities, but again, I'm not sure if she's there part-time or full-time. So again, we do try to provide them with sources that are peer-reviewed, that are quality work, and that will hopefully assist them in writing their papers. As you can imagine, we do come across some issues. Workload is one of them, but it's not a big deal. I mean, there are again just two of us part-time librarians that are assisting the students with their work. It's not too bad right now because there are only 23 students, but their professor for this English 102 class did require them to reach out to us at least 3 times for research assistance. So we've been able to handle that pretty well. But in the fall, I believe we are going to have 80 to 100 students, I'm told, which we're really looking forward to working with and helping them. But as a librarian, the librarian to student relationship is very important to me. I like to get to know students so that I can better understand what their needs are, what so I can better help them with what they're looking for by understanding what their needs are. And so because again, their access to internet is very, very limited, we are not able to build those kinds of relationships. So say that I receive a message from a student with a request, and it may be, I will respond as soon as I can. So probably later that day or within minutes if I'm right at my computer. But before the student can respond to me, maybe like 3 days or so before they can reach back out and respond. So that can be a bit difficult, because again, that back and forth dialogue that we need to have as librarians with our students can be we can't have that really, and it's harder for us to understand, to get clarification on what it is that they're needing. I know that the students also do have access to Indobo, which is a platform that provides them with courses, whether they be educational or spiritual. I think I saw some yoga classes. I saw an introduction to writing mysteries and thrillers taught by Dan Brown, stuff like that. And our library director right now, Courtney Jordan, has been working with the Department of Corrections to have them at least get access to JSTOR, but I don't really know where that plan is right now. I hope it works. I hope it goes through so that they are able to conduct at least a little bit of their own research. And before the semester started, I did work with the professor, Dr. Doyle, for this course on creating a little guide so that they would know what it looks like and how to conduct this type of research, using Boolean operators and stuff like that, because the age range is pretty wide. And so their digital literacy, I imagine, is also, from pretty good to maybe not so good. And then, of course, because the communication can be a bit difficult and sometimes the response it can take a while. We don't always get it right. So far, though, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, and I am grateful for that. But there was one instance, this one particular student, if I may, I will share his initial request and then tell you a little bit about what happened there. I don't know if you can read it, so I'll read it out for you. And it starts with a good evening, Ms. Flores. I'm reaching out in hopes of gaining information to help jumpstart my research on undocumented migrants. This seems to be a hot topic in the media, and I find myself straddling the subject as I seem to have opinions on both sides of the fence. No pun intended. While reviewing the documents in our English 102 modules, I read that I need to provide specificity when requesting research material, which made me wonder what I might need to drill into to understand the subject. I decided to start with the stereotypical complaints that I've heard, hoping I could possibly validate or eliminate some of the complaints I have heard that are associated with undocumented migrants. How are undocumented migrants affecting the welfare system? Are they bogarting resources needed for legal citizens? How are they affecting the healthcare system? Is there validity to claim that they are flooding hospitals with no insurance, racking up medical debts that will never be paid, ultimately causing cost increase to legal or for legal citizens? Why are there so many stereotypes about illegal migrants taking our jobs? Are there any specific statistics associated with illegal migrant employees compared to the undocumented rate among Americans or unemployment rate among Americans, excuse me? This is my first time attempting a research paper, so I'm very open to suggestions or advice. If I'm not asking the right questions, am overlooking pertinent data points, or if you think I might be spinning my wheels in the wrong direction, I welcome any and all feedback. So with this particular student, I found what I could that I thought would be helpful, and I did, of course, try to send material that would speak on all sides of this topic. And then later, the student asked for information on uh, accrued medical debt nationally by undocumented immigrants. And he was also interested in the housing patterns from 2020 to 2025 on undocumented immigrants. So, as you maybe can imagine, finding hard statistics on this was a little difficult. Everything that I found was preliminary, as with undocumented immigrants and our data, everything was just an estimate, really. And I tried to explain this as best I could. And so I think he felt like maybe he wasn't being heard or like I was misunderstanding the question. So he reached out to the prison education coordinator and said that he felt, again, that he wasn't being heard or that he didn't know how to ask questions. So I later reached out to my coworker, Rhonda, and then our full-time librarian, Kathleen, for their assistance. And they also provided similar resources. And then I'll just share a couple of more examples of the research questions that I received from students this semester. Some of them are pretty fun. This first one says, can you see if you can find a book called Initiation into the Golden Dawn, a complete book of occult philosophy? And then, of course, again, because their internet access is very, very limited and they can only open PDFs, this is what I try to return to them. Any PDF format of whatever I can find, or sometimes I do copy and paste articles or book chapters if I'm able to in a Word doc. And then I provide the sources and they are responsible for their own citation. But again, we do help them with that if they need. The next one, I blurred out the student's name, but it says, I'm making research material requests for English 102. My essay topic is the origins of development and current state of conflict between the Jewish state and the Arab world. I aim to include historical background with summary all the way back to the origins of Judaism and Islam, maybe even before then, focusing on the following: central tenets of the religious conflict, central tenets of geopolitical conflict, the geographic displacement and reinstitution of the physical state, Israel, and the current situation and involvement of the United States armament and support since its reforging. So the professor and I did ask them kindly to provide as much information as they could, and I think the student did a pretty good job of letting us know specifically what he was interested in, and that's something that we do ask, if possible, that they let us know as thoroughly as possible what they're looking for. And I think again that he did a pretty good job. And so I remember, at least 6 PDFs and a few other documents for this student. And I think that he was pretty happy with what he received. And then another asked, when and where were the Major League Baseball, when and where was Major League Baseball formed and with how many teams? He wanted to know the year of the first World Series, which I think is 1903, and the top three themes with the World Series wins. He wanted to know the differences between the American and National Leagues, rules, records, history, so essentially a lot of statistics. And he wanted to know about records held by the players, the ERA, the home runs, strikeouts, wins, and the oldest standing records. He wanted to know about the average team worth, the yearly income per owner, the average player salary, and the financial benefits for the city. So some of them have been really fun. I've had some other students ask about life or extraterrestrial life and hard facts. We've had students ask about resources for how people feel with having the Bible taught in schools and all kinds of really, really just super cool questions. And I have really enjoyed being part of this program, and I hope to continue or having the opportunity to continue working with them. In the future, though, I think it would be nice if we were able to have at least certain times throughout the week a little like chat box where we can have more of that back and forth dialogue to better understand the students. And hopefully they will have access to JSTOR or other databases where they can at least conduct a little bit of their own research. I mean, we're happy to do it, but it makes us sad that they are not able to do their own and to have that kind of exposure, you know. Um, but that's really all I have. So thank you all for listening and being with me this morning.
Yeah, thanks so much, Laritza. This is super interesting. So I'll give some time for folks to add questions or comments in the chat or in the Q&A section. But I had some questions for you that I thought we could talk about a little bit more. So it
Yeah.
was really interesting to me, like seeing the specific questions that students asked and how a lot of it is kind of just foundational background
Mhm.
knowledge that they could just do simple Google searches for. So can you talk a little bit about maybe like the successes and challenges of like finding different types of sources that you were able to send, like either like database encyclopedias or even like Wikipedia pages, or can you talk a little bit more about the types of sources that you were finding that were accommodating these specific requests?
For sure. Yeah, we use, well, at least I use a lot of JSTOR. I find a lot of really good articles on JSTOR and Academic Search Complete. I've used information from Encyclopedia Britannica and then articles also from news, just like CNBC, I believe it is, that I find a lot of the sports information from. And folks that are really interested in the sports and that have made sports their research topic are really grateful for that kind of stuff. I'm learning a lot about baseball, and I can't say I'm a big fan, but it is interesting to learn about.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you mentioned really briefly on one of the first slides that do you have some kind of instructional component, either like asynchronous materials that you share, or maybe like a session that you do to kind of give them an overview of how you're doing this type of research so they might be able to take some of this with them for when they have greater access to the internet?
No, but I think that's something that my coworker Ron and I would really like to do if they are able to access it. Unfortunately, through Lantern, they're not able to watch videos because at the beginning of this course, and something that I should have mentioned, that was my idea. I wanted to create just a brief guide, but through Lantern, they're not able to play videos, and so that's why I created this sort of a PDF, not kind of brochure, but a short presentation that they could view, and it was, I think, quite thorough. You know, I showed the search box and how to use keywords, and I think they still have access to it, but I don't know how often they access it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for taking my questions first. We do have questions in the chat. There's a question from Robin. Our library is beginning its PEP journey. If you could
Cool.
advise any libraries starting with prison education, what has been the hardest idea for library staff? One philosophy to implement and or stay away from in your experience? Thanks.
Well, again, my experience has been mostly positive, except for the one student. And I think that's mostly just on me, that the feeling that I just didn't do enough or that it wasn't enough for the student who was asking about all the undocumented immigrant questions. And I think that what I sent was good, and my director looked over it, and she also agreed that the sources were good. But I think, again, that's mostly just on me, like feeling that maybe I didn't understand well enough and let him down. And I just as an information professional, I don't like feeling that I didn't do enough, you know. But something that I've really enjoyed again is having at least the minimal contact that we have. I don't know what kind of platform you'd be using um to reach out with the students, but I have enjoyed getting to know them based on the questions that they ask and what little interaction we have. And I think that I would recommend working with these students the way you would with anybody else, being respectful, being inquisitive, being curious, and treating them like humans, just like you would any other student that walks to you through the doors in your academic library in person. And hopefully things will shift and they'll have a little bit more access to even just databases so they can learn to do this stuff on their own, and then we'll just be there to guide them.
Yeah, for sure. That's really helpful advice. We have Jay in the Q&A asking, great presentation. Thank you for sharing your
Thank
thoughts and
you.
experiences. This is such important work. I am new in my role as library director and am
Oh,
very excited to begin this work. Um, Of course, I have lots of questions on how to do this work to the best of my abilities, given the severe restrictions. One question I have for you, have you been able to visit the facilities? I have been invited to do so, but wanted to know if this is something we can do regularly to bring student materials and build rapport.
I have not been able to visit the facility, to be honest. I don't know that I can. I want to say yes, but we've not yet been invited to. It is something that I would like to do to like same as you mentioned, to provide more materials and see, kind of what their interests are, uh, book-wise or article-wise or magazine-wise, and see what else we could provide for them because I do imagine that what they have is pretty old, and I'm sure they would enjoy some new materials. But I wish you luck. I hope that it goes really well. I think it's something you'll enjoy.
Yeah, it's great to hear that so many people are doing this work.
Yeah.
I just wanted to call attention to some things that folks are sharing in the chat if you haven't gotten a chance to see. Pamela said, we had accreditation concerns from SAC COC about the fact that students weren't able to do their own research. The DOC has provided the offline JSTOR version for incarcerated people, but they are, for whatever reason, reluctant. The KCTCS library directors have been pushing for this over the years with a little progress. Do you want to comment on that a little bit in terms of accreditation?
I remember. Sorry, I'm just now
That's
seeing.
okay. It's a little further up. Yeah.
Okay. Let me go back. I think I missed some of it. Okay, here it is. We had accreditation concerns. Participants weren't able to. Yeah. Yeah, they do have to approve JSTOR. And I think part of why, or at least something that I heard, is part of the reason why they're hesitant is because they have to pay. But I believe that they don't. Although maybe I'm wrong. And maybe their concerns are that they might find information that is not appropriate or that could be, I don't know. But I think they should be able to access some databases at least. I mean, even just one. It's it's sad for me that they are not able to see or to conduct their own research. And I think that it would be helpful for when they are able to, be out and can go to a library on their own.
Yeah, for sure. Pamela also mentioned we created a LibGuide for our PEP program and converted it to a PDF. I also converted some in-house instructional videos that I uploaded to Lantern. So hopefully those are some other ideas. Do you have other ideas of things that you would like to do? It sounds like also you're pretty new to this institution yet, so I'm sure you have a lot of
Yeah.
ideas of things to work on in the future.
Yeah, that's so cool that you were able to upload a video. I was told that they weren't able to watch them. The coordinator, the PEP coordinator, tried to show a 15-minute video once and she didn't have any luck, but I think it's worth trying again. And I like that you included this LibGuide as a PDF. I think that's a good idea and maybe something that I will do and borrow from you if that's okay. Something that they can print out, maybe keep in their lockers if they have, and something that they can return to as they need. That's great.
Yeah, Pamela, it
Yeah,
seems like has some experience, but go ahead. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, we can provide the information literacy, but they can't practice it, and that does hurt. Oh, okay. File and aspect ratio. Okay.
And then Robin also dropped in the chat for librarians looking toward prison education. A great
Yeah.
researcher, Jeannie Austin, hosted this very helpful webinar, Academic Library Services for Incarcerated People. So that if someone could drop that in the collaborative notes, we can all watch that later.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, feel free to keep asking your questions and putting comments in the chat. I also just wanted to add another quick question slash comment. I really liked what you were saying around building rapport and kind of having more of a organic back and forth with students, and maybe virtual chat is one way to do that. I think that's a really encouraging idea. Um, when they write these letters to you, it seemed like they're coming in digitally and you respond digitally. In my personal time, I do some letter writing to incarcerated people as
Oh,
well. I know it's very time consuming, but yeah, do you want to say more about how you might kind of like do you ask prompting questions to kind of encourage them to write back to you if you want to continue that conversation with them, or what are some strategies you've tried to kind of talk a
yes,
little bit more than just
I have tried to ask open-ended questions so that I can get a little bit more response from them and get to know them a little bit better. And sometimes they do respond. Sometimes I don't know that they're able to. I also offer, like for instance, there's a student who is researching octopuses right now, and I asked if he was familiar with the documentary My Octopus Teacher, which I watched and loved. And he's not yet responded, but I hope he does, and I hope he's able to watch it.
yeah, for sure. Well, if you want to hang around a little bit more, Laritza, and see if other folks, oh, Robin also added in the chat, building rapport idea seems
Thank
like a
you.
good pathway to explore regarding ways. Thanks for the idea that you've shared. So we can take an early break unless is there anything else you wanted to mention, or we can take another moment to get any other, maybe someone's typing as we speak, so we'll pause for another moment, but
Before everybody starts to head out, though, thanks again for giving me your time and listening. I really appreciate it.
yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to check Discord as well for
Awesome.
you, Laritza. I don't know if you have signed into that, but I'll just take a moment.
Sorry, folks. I haven't.
That's totally fine. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like nothing yet, but great. If you wanna, do you wanna go back to your first slide really quick that had your email address? Because maybe folks will send you an email to keep chatting more. But thank you so much, everyone. We're gonna take a break for lunch. We'll leave Laritza's email up for a little bit, but in a little bit we'll switch back over to our KLA slides that have some links. I also want to call attention again to the Spotify that Julie made. When you open it up, you can go to the playlist and maybe you want to listen to some fun tunes while you're enjoying your lunch. But some of the organizers will be around. Please do come back at 1 for the next presentation, which is Mentorship as Instruction, Guiding Student Workers to Library Careers with Amanda Peach. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah,
Thanks so
see you
much.
all. Thanks for having me.